Ah, yes, of course. A good way to start the show is burp when you are muted. Welcome to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, revolution.radio. This is Planet Collingwood Open Round Table. My name is Monty Dean. I am here in Melbourne, Victoria. Hello from the future. It's just gone past 6 p.m, so it's dinner time. So I fed the cat. I gave my cat food. I didn't feed the cat to a wild bear. We don't have wild bears down here. We have koalas, but they're not bears. Yeah. A big thank you to Tony and Scott, and Tony Scott, the famous director. Let's be fair. And if you enjoyed the last 2 hours, please go to the websites, one or the other, and donate what you can so we can continue having Revolution Radio on air, Studio A and B, because Revolution Radio is 100% listener supported. I still maintain it's the longest running crowdfunding project on the net today, that being the internet. Government is not like taxpayer funding. When they say government funding, that's taxpayer funding. Also, when you're at the website, go to the merchandise, buy hats and cups and caps, hats and caps and T-shirts, as well as onesies for the little ones, and then pop into the chat room with like-minded, like-hearted, just liked people. At the moment, SJ is in there, June, Omega Logus. I'm getting better at saying that. So there you go. He's from Canberra. Someone has to be, and he's a trooper. He just informed me too. The fires are mostly out. So, been raining here in Australia. So, I'll get to my guests in a second, because just an idea. You need to start the roundtable off with a subject, and I'm not a big Bible dude. Technical term, you can look it up in the Vatican. Bible dude. And with all the fire, the flooding, the pestilence, it's a bit biblical. And I'm just wondering, did they look forward and see all this happening, or are they running to a script, or it's just a massive coincidence? I'm going to ask that question too. If you'd like to join me, just drop me a line, drop me a message on Skype, Monty Dean, or Monty_Dean, and I'll add you to the call. I think Freedom Screen still works. Find out for me, and then let me know. I've been joined by Bruce MacDonald, our Central American correspondent, as well as Viking, our Northern Californian correspondent. I just like saying correspondent. Bruce, you were first. How are you?
Very well, Monty. Very well, thank you. Praise Jesus.
Well, see, now in where you're at is that your neighbor. Or did you mean the Christ?
There's no Jesus on the mountain, but there's one down in town.
See, now there's a T-shirt idea. That's a great quote. There's no Jesus on the mountain, but there's one in town. Yeah, couple of pesos. I'll take you in my little Viking. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm president accounted for.
Excellent. The last show, as they want, because they've got to talk about something they mentioned, because I only unfortunately caught the last 10-15 minutes. They were talking about the virus, because that's kind of in the news. However, we can talk about the fear machine that is the news, where they're pushing it and the numbers are all over the place. And from my perspective, if I can put forward, I know it's a unique perspective. We know we never die, and we are much more than what we are. And so I still don't understand how people. I'm scared of dying, but I'm not scared of death. And I'm sort of warming to the idea of dying, because it's like, oh, but I know I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die per se. I'm going to drop body. And like, if I get taken out by a virus, I become more, to quote Obi-Wan Kenobi, strike me down and I become more powerful than you can ever imagine. What do you think to that? Am I being psychotic, or it's an interesting view?
I triple dog dare you to walk through Wuhan at night barefoot.
Well, I can't get there for starters, so I'll say yes. Well, actually, no, I won't go there, because I've seen footage of them spraying disinfectant, which looks like a massive smoke machine or a fog machine. I'll probably die from all the chemicals that are trying to kill the virus.
Yeah. It's Viking virus.
It's man-made. It's the last stand. You know, I said this a year ago that we weren't going to have any wars. There's not going to be any nuclear weapons. There's not. The only thing that they have to stand on is a pandemic or a market crash, and both are coming. This is a pandemic, which they're doing to try to, just confuse and scare the populace or humanity, to keep them in subjugation and fear. It's gonna burn out. It's not going to then necessarily become a worldwide pandemic. Although it is definitely messing with parts and pieces of our manufacturing chain worldwide. You got the Airbus, you got Hyundai, Apple, Nike. Everybody is starting to feel the pinch. All the Starbucks, Kentucky Fried Chicken, they're shutting down thousands of stores. And there's going to be definitely an adverse reaction to their ploy, and it's going to backfire. I really feel that this is just another effort, to flex their muscles. It's only 1% left, guys. 1% of the dark is left on this planet, and they're doing their damnedest to make it miserable in their last stand. We definitely have tipped in favor of the light. It's a matter of time, or it's a matter of linear time before we enter into non-time in this infinite state of this new consciousness. And just a little anecdote: the Schumann resonance. So what's been happening here is these waves are gamma waves in 5D. These are 5D gamma rays that are pushing the Schumann resonance from 40 to 100. So they happen maybe once a year. Now it's once every month. Now it's once every 2 weeks. It's happening every week. And what they're saying is they're slowly amping up into the point where it will be permanently be fixed in 40 to 100 hertz. And they're saying that this is going to be happening in the next 6 to 12 months. And if you notice, it is happening every 5 days now. We're getting this huge, surge of gamma waves. And it's affecting our animated particles. It's affecting our DNA. It's affecting this planet. Is shifting before our eyes.
Yes, I felt a shift on the weekend, and interesting enough, like the Schumann resonance on Sunday, I think it's halfway between where I am at and you're at, because it's in Russia, so I can't remember exact time that they go by. But most of Sunday, it was a massive whiteout, and you can see it peaking. As that also was the full moon, which kind of makes whoever's planned it, that was a good idea. If you had this massive spike which pushed up the frequency, it could be hidden through just the lunatic aspect of the moon. And I've felt a disconnection or a shift upwards, and there was a disconnection of the old, and so some of the frequency dropped away, like the negative or the lower frequency seemed to have fallen away or burnt out or went out of phase. Because I like the idea of radio or TV signals, because we're just tuning ourselves to a different frequency. Also, there's a couple of markers, I say a couple of people, when there's a spike in the Schumann resonance, they seem to go a bit tropo, which is an Australian term for like in tropical heat, they get a little bit crazy, and they spike and they start flipping out. So it is kind of interesting to see how everyone is being affected by it. And it kind of makes sense, because if someone's described it as birth pains, and as we slowly attune to it, there'll be more frequency lifting. just making myself laugh now. There'll be more frequency of frequency. Yeah, you can.
That's the Mad Dogs and Englishmen syndrome.
Yeah. It's it is kind of, it's fascinating what's going on with all at the same time. Someone's pointed out. Where did I see that? We've changed timelines again, or we're still on the graduate. Not the one like is it Project Looking Glass or Yellow Book or the Team Dark or the Cabal or the Deep State had the remote viewing programs, and I think it's Timeline 1. that's where there was supposed to be a massive event of calamity and negativity, and they were where they end up winning, because they get to the end of 2012, and there was a block, and if anyone got through that block with their remote viewing, they only saw a white horse statue. And so now we're on timeline 2, which averts that massive tragedy. And I think someone's put forward that I can't remember who it was, so I do apologize. They start using this technology again because they want to know what's actually going on, which kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense because they're losing or they've lost and they haven't realized it yet, and you can see that through the geopolitical stuff as well. And what I find I'll throw a tidbit at the end and then I'll hand the talking stick over. I'm finding that people here in Australia seem to be falling for the carbon hoax, where climate change is because of carbon and coal, and it's getting annoying. Anyway, what do you think?
Well, this is actually timeline 3. Timeline 2 was 2012 to 2020, and that's a 7-year monadic cycle. Our body goes through monadic cycles every 7 years, and this Earth goes through monadic cycles every 7 years. It's a galactic cycle. And so we had, going into timeline 2 from 2012 to 2020, was disclosure and activation. We're waking up, and we're activating, and we're seeing the disclosures, and we're seeing the rhetoric, and we're seeing the facade, we're seeing the bullshit that has been subjugating us into slavery for thousands of years. Timeline 3, which started actually 2 Sundays ago on spring, which was two Sundays ago, started officially Timeline 3, which now we're going into full activation and full transition into this new conscious awareness. So it's yet to be seen, yet to unfold, but it's with us in every moment of our linear time that we can stay calm and stay present to who we are on our course of action, which is being your passion. It's being your passion, yoga, meditation, gardening, just being who you are. Is you're on proper course of action for this new paradigm.
Oh, interesting enough. I've seen the differences. I've got 2 money stories or anecdotes. I found $20 on the ground walking home. That was cool. So I had a haircut just to fix up stuff at the back. Also, about a month ago, I was in a small car accident where a tow bar pushed my radiator up against the engine, and I finally got it back a couple of days ago. And when you budget things and you're wrong, I was on the good side of it. I had $50 extra, so I could buy food. So wins all around. My car now, it was a completely blue, but now the front end and the bonnet is white, so it's very unique, and I will not lose it in a car park anywhere because my car doesn't look like anything else.
Well, just paint the hood red.
Well, if I move to America, yes, but unfortunately, being in Australia, that's very well. Yeah, well, we've got red, white, and blue, but nearly a quarter of our flag is the United Kingdom. But I was born there. Well, I was thinking of putting a 5 on the bonnet because it does look like a race car. So, yeah, interesting what's going on. And now I had to borrow money from Dad, and I have to pay him back over the next 4 months. So, good. That's the way I'm starting a business, in debt to somebody else. And I've chosen podcasting as well as YouTubing. And Bruce, you'll probably get an email or a message soon of like, do you want to come on my show and push your book? I know you'll say yes. Sorry?
Read the friggin' thing. I hate doing interviews with people who haven't read it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll have to
read it.
Yeah, I'll have to get it then. So I'll read it and get you on. So.
Yeah. You need a dictionary with that too? I got an EPUB of Webster's.
No, I know what words mean. I did that with my mum. It's like, how do you spell this? Get the dictionary. I know what it means. I'm going to spend the next 45 minutes trying to find out how to spell it.
What does the mean?
What, the? what throws me what throws me is try and find phonetic in the dictionary. It doesn't start with an F. Anyway, you were going to say something.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about your podcast.
Well, it's just going to be called the Monty Dean Show. We'll go for an hour, and I'll record it and put it up on YouTube, as well as going through Anchor FM, which puts it on Spotify and Apple, and so forth and so where all good podcasts are found. And just working out the kinks of because once I start, I need to have somebody each week, so I'm going to see at least 4 to 6 people lined up, and hit the ball running, and the old friends and favors, because I don't have an audience yet because I haven't put a show out. It's that thing of like about 6 people will listen to it, but over time as people grow and it's sort of my passion. It's sort of what I do anyway. So if I can make enough money to survive, and we'll just see what happens.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And are you aware of here in Australia we have what we call the NEIS program, which is New Enterprise Incentive Scheme. And the government actually helps out to try and get people to start up small businesses.
Yeah, cool.
Sort of, but I've realised that tax gets about 1/3 of what you make. I'm like, no wonder people are upset. So I find it interesting that I'm starting a business just as this massive change happens. Like, well, yeah, I can see why 1/3 of your income goes to the government, and that turns out so well because just. When the revolution starts, it's not going to be hard for people to flip over.
Yeah. Agreed.
Or it may just actually happen where, if we want to play the what if game, what scenarios can we see happening? Because the pandemic won't work. There'll be casualties, and there'll be say karma based, where they'll move on and drop body. But have you noticed, I've seen the patent number for it where it is man-made, agreeing with Viking. And, if you think about it, where are all those Hong Kong protesters now? None to be seen.
Excellent question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I can't read anything right now. Tokyo subway sign. I cannot read anything now. I don't know. Viking says, it's a man-made virus, but that doesn't mean they deliberately released it. It could have accidentally got out of the level 4 Wuhan biological warfare laboratory. I literally can't read anything now. But the game's so long out, and I just don't know. I just know it's getting worse and worse. Like day by day, week by week, month by month, nothing is getting better. Everything's getting worse. And with all these crises lined up now, I think the one that sort of brings the whole house of cards down is the economy. And it's baffled me. It's still standing, for the last, I'd say 5 years, not just the last 3 years, but it staggers me that it's still even standing.
It's I find it fascinating where because of the virus, Singapore or Hong Kong, or was it Shanghai most likely, they took a hit, and it was up to 8%. And the markets are so fragile. 8% apparently is massive drop, and it's I'm guessing the powers that were have been pushing these systems, and they can't go 3% down because they'll lose control and everything can collapse. It's very similar to the carbon CO2 man-made climate change thing, because people keep saying, there's too much CO2 in the atmosphere, and if you go through the numbers, it's 0.04 is CO2 and 3% of that is man-made. And like, is everything this fragile where, you know, if you cough to the left, you can destroy the world, but if you cough to the right, you're okay? So,
Yeah,
I find,
I don't know about that.
No, well,
But
I'm exaggerating to a point, but yeah.
but I mean, even taking in the underlying chaos theory, I don't know. Yeah, it just it's 2020 seems to be some kind of a kickoff. You know, I think it's gonna be. Well, let me quote Charles Dickens. I think it's going to be the best of times and the worst of times.
Yeah, I could see that. That would be an element of the separation of frequency. Viking, what's your view, or what information you have about the splitting of frequency? Because I know Dolores Cannon's been talking about that, and you can see that sort of that division. You could even step into the political spectrum of the United States, where Trump just needs to wait because the Democrats are eating themselves. Where I mean, Pelosi ripped up that speech, and it's just it's completely ridiculous is happening. I mean, I understand where people aren't fans of Trump, but as the hip hopper, the rapper Zuby said, well, okay, Trump's bad. Name someone who is better, and he still hasn't had a answer. Some people say Bernie, but he's had a heart attack. I don't really see people, even the DNC establishment's trying to get rid of him. So with is this the split is that we see with most things, especially like in the culture war with fandom? Is this part of all the 3D, 5D frequency change that we're seeing?
I think it's all the above. I mean, this is, as I said, 2020 is, as Bruce is pointing out, is going to be this next 7 years is going to be the how would you say, the renaissance, the revolution, the resolve of mankind as we know it to be. As we knew it to be, we are transitioning into a brand new operating system, brand new phase. The economy is going to be asset-backed. There's going to be disclosure. Two things that we needed to have for humanity to move forward was prosperity and disclosure. Those are two main elements that are holding back the majority of the populace on this planet. So once we're in prosperity, and once we have disclosure and arrests, and people finally realize the true template of our history up until now, we'll be able to then find this new paradigm. We're going through this paradox. It's like we're threading the eye of the needle. We're absolutely threading the eye of the needle, and the Schumann resonance is causing an amplification or a catalyst for this to occur. Every time this planet gets hit with gamma waves, things compress, and when things compress, elements that are still stuck in the 3D go haywire, and people that are starting to graduate into the 4 and 5D get revelations and new understandings. It's just like, and the understanding that you receive is congruent to the lesson in your life at that point in non-time that you need to be aware of. So everybody gets their codes that are right for them, what they need to do at that very moment. Each wave comes in with ones and zeros, these gamma waves, and they're triggering our process of awakening. And so if you're still working on, if you're still reacting, if you're still in pain and suffering, that's what's going to get triggered. You'll be able to go back then with these new codexes and find a definitive resolve in your course of action. If you're still stuck in the 3D, you're just going to be a cat on a hot tin roof. There's no resolve for you at that for them in this transit. And this is it. This year is going to be a contemplative series of events that will earmark mankind going through trials and tribulations, blessings and a curse, that whole thing. But it's holding true and holding fast, and not getting caught up in it. You just can't get caught up in this turmoil. You have to find your center.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to speak for Bruce, but because he can do that himself, we've heard him just speak before. But we're the type of people that have like, let's do this. It's been a while, and I think staying centered, we're that tired of like, yeah, just let it unfold. Just go ahead. I'm here. I'm watching. Oh, good. It's ended. I'm going to lie down now. So I'm going to I'll probably sleep for a month and then party for about 14 years. It's, what else I was going to say? It's, what I found interesting through my experience is like my car had an accident and it feels much better now. It's been away for, I haven't been near it for a month, because the accident happened on a Saturday and the closest mechanics was closed for 2 weeks because of the summer break, and then it took another 2 weeks for it to get fixed. However, it feels like it's the same car but better. It just seems it's done something, and it's yeah, on a simple level. It doesn't feel 3D, it feels 5D. I had a set of speakers. I'm on my fourth set of speakers. And they've blown again. And tomorrow I'll be finding out if my insurance or something, blah blah blah, or I'll get new speakers. Or so the premise of my story is anything that sort of happens or breaks now, I just think, oh well, that's the old, and I should get something new. And so anything I get now, unless there's a lesson involved, which is 99.5% not going to happen. But if I buy something new, I'm supposed to, or if something old breaks or I lose something now, I'm letting go of that and let go of the old and letting the new come in. So that's in the physical sense.
That's the whole premise of surrendering. You have to surrender. See, it's really interesting that where people go right now to negotiate life is what I refer to as the artificial intelligence or the organic AI of what's known as the cloud. Like right now we have a cloud where we dump information and pictures and whatnot. So there's a cloud of humanity that they've been drawing from for their course of action, which is a finite, limited state of being. People are awakening. They're awakening from this cloud into this new paradigm of their own sense of being, and being able to now determine life and negotiate life through their passion, through the skill set, skill craft, and skill art in a genuine way. So they're developing a self-mastery in their sojourn. This is surrendering, like you're pointing out, letting go of the old and honoring this new sense of being, which is brand new. I mean, you can't think about it. If you think about it, you're not even in the same ballpark. You're still thinking. If you think you know it, you're not even close. Because this is letting go to a new operating platform of our 4 to 5D existence, which is it's templative based on how you start to then, through your understanding of who you are, why you're here, you're activating your 9th, 10th chakra, then to be able to engage in humanity with benevolence, 11th chakra, and then be able to uplink to your quantum dynamics, 12th chakra. We're starting to activate these higher chakras now. This is what this next 7 period time span is all about. Was we're activating our higher chakras, which is a different operating platform. We're no longer engaging in this artificial cloud of disinformation.
Yeah, it's sort of seeing it through the culture war. The Oscars were on the weekend, and I watched the Stephen Crowder a simulcast where they just ripped it apart. And you drink for 3.5 hours, they get a bit cranky at the end. It was interesting to see their reaction when the best picture was announced, which was Parasite, the South Korean film. Strangely enough, it also won the international film as well, and that brings up a question. Well, how can it pick one? It's either how can it be international as well as best picture? It should be one or the other. However, it could come across as virtual signaling. The point is that they had the lowest ratings in years, and people are getting tired of that Hollywood bubble where they're in a completely different world, and it's multi-millionaires at which spend. Oh, see, the dog agrees with me. That's right.
It does.
Rich, as David Letterman mentioned about the Oscars, it's rich people giving rich people awards, and the multimillionaires.
It's more like pedophiles giving pedophiles award.
Well, there is that as well, yes. I actually shared a lovely meme last week with the Iowa caucus where they actually got count in to help out with the counting of the votes. And I tagged it on Facebook with one satanic pedophile, two satanic pedophiles, and that's the other thing, yeah. So, Holly Weird, they're weird, and Birds of Prey, which has changed its name, which is a comic book movie, that's failed. It flopped at the box office because apparently it's an okay film. But the marketing was, this is a feminist film for the girls, and we don't need men. So strangely enough, the men didn't turn up and spend their money. It's fascinating how that works. And people are getting tired. They're waking up. It's an element of waking up, but they're seeing the pattern of the agenda being pushed through the culture where it's all about forced diversity and everything else like that. And they're getting drag queens to do story time to 5-year-olds, and it's like, because sex and children, not a good idea. Of course, you need sex to have children, but that's about the only time, really. You can see it in the culture war where people are losing and people are voting with their wallet because these corporations. I'm not sure if anyone's a Picard fan, Star Trek Picard. That's completely different from what was The Next Generation, where Star Trek had this wacky idea of having a beautiful sort of future ahead on the planet where they got rid of racism, poverty, all the stuff that Viking sort of points out, that as we go, it's more of a scientific view in storytelling. It's not a spiritual side of things. But they started to explore space, and that's where you get the adventures when they go out into the galaxy and have adventures. In Picard, they've gone back, they've regressed, where they still have money and there's still ego and everything else like that. And so they've changed that. Doctor Who's losing ratings because the writing is atrocious. And I'll stop there because I could spend the next 45 minutes explaining, just ranting about Doctor Who. But it is just it's boring storytelling, but people like it. It's fascinating how the new Star Wars has split people in half. It's back to that divide, and it's interesting to see where you just want good stories and you want escapism. And they're trying to bring in this reality because Orange Man bad, and so they're using their art to keep attacking Trump. However, they're not using their art. It's just Orange Man bad instead of like let me think of a very good film, like say Lord of the Rings, which you can see how evil is bad, and it's an anti-war film, but it's a fantastic story with amazing characters and arcs and everything else like that. Instead of
there's also Avatar.
Yeah, Avatar as well. Well, I know that some people don't like it, but I do. If I ever smoke marijuana, I put it on. It's like, look at the colors, children. However, it's not preachy. That's the thing about what we're saying now. They just like, okay, I want to say this. This is my agenda, and this is what I want to try and tell people, and they don't hide it in a story.
I got a great first premiere of Lord of the Rings. The opening, and it was just my brother. There was about a group of 7, and we went to a Japanese restaurant, right? And we're having sushi and eating, and they brought out pots of green tea. Well, we put mushrooms in the green tea, and we're eating and drinking tea. Have them fill it back up again. And I'll tell you, man, we were in the very back row, and the theater was packed, and I had to go back the second time to actually understand it. It was such a visual. We're just absolutely tripping on this amazing, the movie was phenomenal. But I saw it, the first one, just absolutely high as a kite.
Right on.
Sorry, I was just saying hello to Cortec in the chat room. At least you saw the first one, the Fellowship of the Rings, where I suppose the Morgoth would have freaked you out. The Shadow and Flame, the 50-foot high demon that's on fire, and the old Fire and Shadow. Because if you saw the Two Towers, you would have seen Treebeard, and he's like, man, that tree's talking. Whoa. Mind you, it could have prepared you for all the elementals that you've been talking to. So that's a good example of Tolkien being a fantastic story writer. His son actually passed away in the last 2 to 3 weeks, who kept a bastion, was it Bastion? Or he looked after the IP, where he wouldn't allow certain things to be done to the franchise, if that's the right word. Be interesting to see what happens now, because someone's decided to, like, the films only came out 20 years ago, but let's make a TV show. And let's, angels create, demons repurpose and destroy because they can't create themselves. And that explains why it seems that Hollywood's run out of ideas. Everything's a reboot or a remake or a twist, like, Ocean's 11. We'll have Ocean's 8 and it's all female. So we've just changed the gender.
Have you seen that series, Carnival Row? I believe it's with Orlando Bloom. It's kind of Elizabeth. It's kind of Edwardian steampunk alternate universe, but it has fairies and satyrs and gnomes and trolls, and they all live in this in the same multiverse town. It's like London, but it's not. You know what I mean? And the Orlando Bloom is a policeman, and he's investigating these murders, and it's amazing. That's talking about alternate universe can come to reality. This is excellent, where you see all the Fey Kingdom, and you see the Elven Kingdom, you see the Fairy Kingdom, all come together with humans.
What's it called again?
Carnival Row.
Oh,
It's on Netflix.
All right, I'll check that out.
First season.
Because Will Smith did a film, Bright something, or even just Bright, which was a film on Netflix, and it's based in Los Angeles, and there's orcs and fairies and elves and everything else like that. And Will Smith is human, and he has a partner. He gets a new partner who's an orc. And it's urbanized, so the orcs are all gangs, and, gang members and everything else like that.
I've seen that. Yes.
Yeah, it's a fascinating idea. So I'm wondering if they saw that idea and gone, well, we can do something similar, and they created this TV show.
That was actually a great film. I was very impressed with because it developed the prophecy, right? The prophecy and good and good over evil, and it was a great storyline.
Yeah, well, strangely enough, people like stories that have a plot, character development. It's like with the latest Star Wars films, the sequel, where the main protagonist is just awesome to start with and has nowhere to go. Like in the first film, she defeats the villain. And then on the second film, she defeats the villain. And then the third one, she defeats the villain. There's no amping it up and the hero's journey. There's none of that. It's just like, she's the bestest ever. And of course, if you point that out, you instantly get called sexist, which I find it fascinating, because I'm judging the character on their ability, and you think I'm judging it on the sex, which makes them sexist. And like the whole Doctor Who thing, it's like people don't like Jodie Whittaker, and they instantly think, oh, you just don't like she's a woman. No, I don't like her because she's terrible. I don't care what her gender is. I can spot. Oh, actually, Dracula, which was made by Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss, who both used to work for Doctor Who. They made Dracula a 3-part miniseries, and it was released over the new year. And they made Val Helsing into a lady. She was a nun, and Dolly Wells is her name. She could make a very good Doctor Who. I enjoyed. If you like Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss' work, they did the Sherlock ones with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin someone. He's Bilbo in The Hobbit. If you like that type of stuff, TV and films, check out Dracula. I enjoyed it quite nicely. But then you get all this woke stuff, and there's just it's just I just found it interesting where I watch a TV show and then people I know go, "That's the best thing I've ever seen. Now that's how you do blah blah blah." I'm like, really? Did we watch the same show? Because like I found it boring, slow, and the only thing that stuck out was a political gender, or I'm a over 40 single white man, so it's my fault. I like to escape. I'm a Pisces. I'm a dreamer, and all my shows are turning into a whinge fest.
Definitely the whole sci-fi fantasy genre is an opportunity to just drift into the multiverse. I'm definitely get as much as I can myself. And I have 5 aspects of Scorpio, so we're both water signs.
My Aries rising, so I still have to look into I know that my sun and my moon are in opposition. That's very Pisces. I was born at 7:00 on a Friday, and the full moon was that night. Good times. So it's been interesting. However, there's nothing wrong with fantasy. Like I can. A good sci-fi show is actually called The Expanse. That's up to season 4 now, and that actually does have diversity where there's black people and Asians, and there's 3 main groups. There's the Earthers, the Martians, and the Belters, the humanity that went out to the asteroid belt and mined it and stayed all there. And there's the Belters have an accent which is very, very strange, and some of their own language as well. It multicasts and across everything else like that. Interesting enough, they just say it's a good story. They don't start going, well, we've got a black person is the main character, and she's a woman, and blah blah. There's none of this grandstanding and ego crap of like, look at me, I'm special. It's more of like, we wrote a good story. It's based on some books, and we think it's a really good show, and I think hopefully you enjoy it as well. And the marketing of it is like, if you like a good story, watch this.
I enjoyed that series as well. Did you like the? Which was sad it was discontinued, but I really loved the Firefly in the movie Serenity.
Oh yeah, so I'm not a fan of Joss Whedon anymore because he went a bit woke and bat shit crazy, or I've heard some bat woman crazy. However, Firefly, which is mid to late 90s, that was a crime that it only had 12 episodes. However, Joss Whedon had a chance with the movie to sort of do the second season, and he created a movie, and it's a brilliant story all the way up. And I have to watch it again. I just still have a copy of it. I remember a friend of mine who's he likes his sci-fi. He's never seen it before. It's like, just watch Firefly. And 3 episodes in, oh my God, this is awesome. And it's, if you're Buffy and Angel fan, it's similar vein. It's not a clone, but it's brilliant the way that there's a mixture of how East and West, English and Chinese bond together, and they leave Earth, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. So I've got a lot of things to watch, and also getting my business up and running, and have to start reviewing things instead of just watching it. So that will be on the back burner.
I also love the whole Stargate and Stargate Atlantis series. That's an amazing series.
Yes, I've watched all of them, and I am going to buy them on DVD eventually, because I remember now. Here's interesting. I was watching David Wilcock. You can if you want to. Just don't become an acolyte of his. But when he was sharing some of his stuff, now this is, where was I living? Around 2012 or just after 2012. And he was doing one of his talks somewhere, I can't remember, and it may have been actually with Kerry Cassidy's Awake and Aware conference that she had in Los Angeles back in 2012 or something like that, 2013. And he was pointing out that like they have disclosure through TV shows, and Stargate is based on the secret space program. Not 100%, but there's elements of it. And there are aliens where the main villains of season 1 and 2, the Gould, where there's like a snake that goes into the body. They're real. And so like, oh, that's fascinating. I'll watch that. So I started watching season 1. Skip to the end. I finished watching season 10 about 3 months later. So I just got hooked and just ran with it.
No, the same way. You know that I had talked one of my council meetings. One of the galactics came in and actually said the Stargates do exist, and there's a major one on Mars, and it basically feeds out to a bunch of other ones. They're portals, right? But just like that, you walk through them, and it definitely they do exist as part of the transit mechanism of the universe. They have these portals or stargates.
Well, actually, someone NASA has reported that the ice caps on Mars is melting, and so people have been making jokes about it's like, well, obviously the cars on Mars should stop using the CO2 and the oil. And I put forward, I think someone's been leaving the Stargate open again. Bruce, are you there, or you're trying to? We can't hear you, or sometimes. So I don't know if the connection's good or not. Because I know you actually spoke to Kerry Cassidy recently as well, and at the end of I only caught the end of it, and there was some audio. There we go.
It's on YouTube. You can watch it anytime, Monty.
Oh yeah, I have saved that. I'm slowly going through my YouTube watch later. I'm up to 100 videos. Like Viking actually shares videos with me and is like, yeah, watch later, and I have days of just catching up on YouTube. Good times.
Yeah.
So oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sound. I watched the video. There weren't any sound problems.
Oh, well, see, it was in the chat at the end, when it was actually live. So don't know, but however, the recording of it must have done well instead of the live stream, because I'm sure Kerry was not recording the live stream, but recording whatever the conference call, and it was live streaming at the same time. So I'm learning all this stuff. So how's everything going with your promo book tour, which you're not leaving your lounge room, because obviously
it's quite an adventure. Yeah, done a lot of big YouTube channels. I think Rex Bear is going to go out there for like 3 days with like $100,000 worth of equipment and play Ghostbuster and live stream the whole thing. It's quite a trip. It's just so funny, man. Yeah, go ahead.
For people who don't know, you should mention the book and what it's about, because people don't know. You haven't mentioned the name of the book.
Oh, okay. Well, it's called Stardust Ranch: The Incredible True Story, and it's about John Edmonds and his wife Joyce living on a portal-infested, ET-infested, and paranormal crazy house for the last 23 years. It's It came out quite nice. I'm quite happy with the writing, and I'm quite happy with the narrative arc, which was the most difficult thing. People are really enjoying it. It's a different kind of exopolitics book. It's more kind of just a story, and it operates like a story, and that's how people are reading it. And it's been fantastic. We've had a lot of fun. We're not done yet. I think we're going to be doing coast to coast, and it's kind of fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Where can people?
So is this available on Amazon?
Yeah, it's on Amazon and Lulu, and so just look by the title or by my name, MacDonald. But Stardust Ranch: The Incredible True Story. You can't miss it. It's there's no other book like that. Yeah.
Cool. I'll actually buy the physical copy because I hate reading digital. I find it annoying. But reading an actual physical book, which is a different sensation. I enjoy that. That's like I've got Sands of Time, all of those books. I was early enough where I got the first two books that came in one, and so I got 1 and 2 in one book and 3, which is book 2. It's confusing now. There's a question: will it be made into an audiobook?
Yeah, I believe it's being done now. I think Kim Carlsberg is going to do that. She was on Baywatch. She was one of the lifeguards. She's like an LA type person, but she's friends with John, and she's had her own ET experiences. I've met a lot of ET people. In fact, I'd say like for the last 6 weeks, my life's been all ET. Like, talking to all these people and really meeting a lot of people through John. A lot of people want to talk to me from writing the book. We've had some really interesting feedback. Like, and John's very public. He's got a website out. It's very easy to get a hold of him. He publicly posts his email address and everything. So we're getting a lot of very interesting feedback. A lot of people have read this book. And I don't mean in terms of the numbers of books we've sold. That's been okay. I mean, it's not stuff. You're not going to make a living writing, folks. Don't quit your day job. But who we've heard back from is really interesting. Like every lettered agency. I'm not joking. Every lettered agency. Except the domestic ones like the FBI. We've heard back from people, maybe 2 or 3 circles from the inner circle in the White House. It's a very freaky trip, this whole thing, this book. For a guy living on a mountain, trying to keep his dog from killing my neighbor's sheep, it's a pretty freaky trip.
Yeah, but now, here's a question for you. With everything that you've just explained, are you having any personal things like in the last 3 to 4 weeks? Like, you walk outside to breathe in the fresh air, and then you see 6 glowing dots fly across the sky or anything? No.
All the weird stuff happened writing the book. It was very weird writing. Very, very weird writing the book. I tell this story on most of the podcasts, not all the podcasts, like 2 or 3 of them, but I shouldn't say podcast, I mean YouTube channel. But there was, let's just say I engaged the Borg writing this book. It's the ET thing is real, all right? Yeah. I don't know what it is. Well, I'll give you first. Do we want to talk about this? I mean, you brought it up, but I mean, I could just go the whole second hour. It's like.
Yeah, well, actually, we're coming up on the break now, I believe. So the music. So if you want, because
let's do it.
Yeah, because you've got Viking's perspective where he channels and talks to people who channel as well, and so it'd be fascinating if there's like a Venn diagram and if the circles overlap. And I'm just a comedian trying to make his way through the universe with a cat. So I will throw to the break.
Oh! One of my cats had 3 kittens last night. It was a miraculous event.
Oh, nice. You're listening to, on that note, you're listening to Revolution Radio. This is Planet Collingwood Open Round Table. My name's Monty Dean. I'm here with Bruce and Viking. You're awesome. That's the dear listener. Everyone that's awesome. And together we are multiple awesome. So we'll be back after this short break. Go have a cup of tea, get something to eat, feed the cat, go to the toilet. Just don't mix them all up. Okay? See you soon. And we are back. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. This is Planet Collingwood. My name is Monty Dean. I've been joined by Bruce MacDonald and the Viking. We call him Viking because that's not his first name. Or is it? We'll find out soon. If you enjoyed the last hour, please go to freedomslips.com and or revolution.radio and donate what you can within reason to keep the station on air, because we are 100% listener supported. That includes all the producers, hosts, callers in, chatters, and listeners. So it's a group effort. Humanity. Allegedly, some of you may not be human. We don't know. And go to the website, donate what you can, then buy some merch, walk around your town like a boss, wearing a t-shirt or a cap, and then pop into the chat room. The Australians are in because it's 7 o'clock at night here on the East Coast. Hello from the future. Now, before we get to Bruce, Viking, do you have anything to say? And or a question for Bruce?
No, I actually first of all, I'm introduced as the Viking, and then it's the Viking after that. But I am known as the Viking. So here's a really interesting anecdote with the Schumann resonance. And the reason why we're slowly amping up to the point of 40 to 100. One of the reasons is we're being terraformed here in our energetics. So in other words, the galactics are terraforming this planet because they cannot come and actually exist or communicate or be with us in this density. So this terraforming to 40 to 100 is a 5D frequency. And then at that point, once we're in that frequency, they'll start to make their contact. So that's one of the reasons why it's also like a slow ramp. We just can't. It's like the bends. I've mentioned the ascension bends. Well, this is a Schumann bends. It has to happen incrementally over time, so we can adjust to it, and then finally we will be in that state. And recently, for example, they haven't made contact on my show for over 3 months. And last Friday, the Arcturian Collective actually came in, but they can only come in through the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki had to channel there and hold their space. They kind of like receive the energy and then transmitted it to Christopher. That's the only way that they could come through. It wasn't like a year ago where they're actually able to come through. So there is some changing here happening in this in energetics to the point where they can't even. It's like walking into a room and they got 20 people scratching on the chalkboard. That's what it's like, and they don't want to entangle in this transitional energy. So they're buying time here. And the Anunnaki, by the way, is the galactic race of Sasquatch. So the Sasquatch and their soul grouping are known as the Anunnaki.
Ah, interesting. Very close to the Anunnaki. There's a lot, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? So thank you for that. Very fascinating. I did have a question, but it's popped out of my head, so it'll probably come back to me tomorrow, which is not going to work out well now. And yes, I actually have another video that I've saved to watch later, because Melissa actually said I'm part Arcturian, so I'm like, oh, it's fascinating. I'm finding it interesting that if we're entering something completely new, it doesn't matter that you've forgotten, because it's all going to change at the same time. So I think there's that blend that will happen where we'll remember enough and then we go into the new. And that's right. During my course, because we get 6 weeks of training at the Nice program, and one day during a break, everyone mentioned they were having strange dreams. And I would say that's probably part of the Schumann resonance as well. And you have the knock-on effect, of course, of the Mandela effect. So it's going to be weird, but now Viking, you used a different word. It's not weird, because weird can be used as it's a bad thing. I can't remember what word you used, but it's going to be fascinating, intriguing, interesting. It's everything's going to turn into, like, I'm thinking like the Aboriginal dream time. Sort of the astral aspect of it, and I'm slowly getting to Bruce, because it'd be interesting to see with the last 24 years, if the house was bought in 96, how it'll lead up to this point. Anyway.
So strange.
Yeah, it's yes. But the people having weird dreams, and so as the frequency goes up, the veil's dropping, and so also have you
Well,
personal question? How do you perceive time at the moment? Because January went for about 18 weeks. From my perspective, it's like it's the 12th of February. It's like, well, that was quick, but it took forever to get here. So, how has your perception been, Bruce?
fairly constant where I live. Like the days just sort of roll by like water off a duck's back.
Yeah, well, that kind of makes sense.
Now
Because you
I want to
go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, it's,
Okay.
makes sense because you've got a routine, and also you're so much closer to nature. So I'm in the middle of an urban sprawl, and so there's all this interference. Move on.
Yeah,
Hey, go ahead.
I I find this natural living just to be really a nice cocoon to go through this transformation we're going through. I do agree with Viking. We are going through a transformation. Um, I don't want to start a big Donnybrook on the round table, but I would really, really, really caution people about trying to communicate with an extraterrestrial race. I mean, you just flip through YouTube and everybody and their brother now is representing somebody, Taigetan Palladians, and I, I I would be willing to bet every cent I have that 99.9% of it is just malignant spirits on the other side having a row with you,
Yeah,
right?
I think
It's
like people
very,
with just
it's
very
very.
quickly. Sorry.
Go ahead, sorry.
Just that sort of see if they resonate with people that have been doing it for a while, like Viking and the Galactic Council that on his show. They resonate with me because they've been doing it for a while, and you can see the backup. But I can see where, like, if I all of a sudden start, I'm talking to an alien, it's like, yeah, but who knows? Because there's so much upheaval in the frequencies, and everything's changing. The mischievous spirits could be playing funny buggers, as they say in Australia,
And
because it's everything like that. So yeah, if it resonates with you, go ahead. Viking, what would you say to that? And
You're,
then we'll get to Bruce.
well, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and just because they're dead doesn't mean they're benevolent. Just because they're a spirit doesn't mean they're looking after your. Yeah, Bruce is right. I mean, they could be just pawning you off for their opportunity to create a false disclosure. Now, where I go when I channel, I go into my quantum dynamics, into my higher soul grouping. Almost everybody that comes through my show, and I could attest to this, at some point in non-time in this infinite universe, I was there. I actually know these people. I know the Fays. I know the Arcturians. I know the Pleiadians because I've been there. And they wouldn't come. They wouldn't come through my council unless I have had direct experience with them. Chris and I and Conrad all have had direct contact in off-world experiences in being on their planet, and they're just coming to reconnect with us. And again, it's through our quantum dynamics. It's not through. I'm not just opening up myself to anybody. In fact, I have trained myself not to do that. When I go into my quantum dynamics, my theta, I'm literally connecting with my higher conscious awareness, and there's a harmonics there which guards and safeguards anybody from entering unless they're in the tribe. They're in my soul grouping. So you really do have. Bruce is right. You have to really. I mean, you're only strong. I look at these people that are channeling, and they haven't a clue. And they're basically just mumbling and garbling information that's more confusing than not.
yeah. And 99.9% of the people talking about UFOs are with the government or retired from a three-letter agency. It's a very convoluted narrative. It's a very guarded narrative. If you get too close to what's really going on, they bump you off like John Mack. And there's a body count in the exopolitics world. It's a contact sport. knowing that, and it's still going on, by the way. I give this reference in some of the interviews I do. After Pizza Guesto went digitally silent for 4 or 5 months, and his first tweet after that, when he resurfaced, was about disclosure. How does a baby murdering child rapist and UFO disclosure go together? Da na 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 na. Final Jeopardy. I don't have the answer, but the exopolitics. And okay, here's another thing that I find very interesting about this narrative. There's a whole school of magicians that speak to this topic. You've got Leo Zagami, you've got Tom Sheridan, you've got others. And they're all saying that this is spiritual phenomenon that's been done through magicians in the last 3 generations. Principal among them, Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley started the UFO craze. We're all being manipulated by some demon named Awaz that Aleister Crowley invoked. Well, that's batshit crazy too, okay? That may be part of it, but that's not the whole truth either. To my perspective, extraterrestrials are primarily part of what we call, in classical esotericism, the astral plane, the fourth dimension, okay? And they transit through there just like, there's dead human beings there, or disincarnate human beings and other things. Just like there's all kinds of life in the physical world, there's all kinds of life in the astral, right? Stuff we don't know about here. One of those things is extraterrestrials. They seem to be making a very big effort to communicate with humanity now. Let me let you in on a little truth about extraterrestrials. They're selfish bastards, all of them, okay? And that includes the Arcturians, the Palladians. I don't mean they're selfish, but the concerns of humanity are about as troubling to them as what's going to happen to an anthill on my property is for me. They don't give a shit. The main question we should be asking now is, why are these beings interacting with us so much? Here's my answer. Because we're on the verge of doing something that's going to affect them as well. And this is why the UFO contact and government treaties with UFOs get ramped up after World War II. What happened in World War II? Well, we kind of mastered destructive fission and fusion and started popping off atomic bombs. Well, that affects the astral plane as well. Astral energy affects the astral plane. Lo and behold, suddenly there are extraterrestrials everywhere. Well, that's one narrative. And there's another. The reptilians and the Greys, they've been here since Atlantis fell, maybe longer. A lot longer, actually. But the reptilians have been in control since Atlantis fell. What's changing now is they're kind of being booted out. They're, part of this galactic, and I'm not trying to sound like an expert, put anyone in their place or anything like that, but I've spoken to a lot of people off air in the last 3 months, okay? A lot of people. Part of what's going on now is that our relationship with these other races, primarily in the fourth dimension, but they can go fourth to third, okay? They can physically manifest. That's what makes them different than ghosts and stuff. With a certain amount of ectoplasmic energy, a ghost can appear, but they can't. They're not with ETs. It's different. They can just like boom. They're right in front of you, and they're physical. They can eat a sandwich, and then boom, they disappear. They have this mastery over moving from the fourth dimension to the third. They don't like coming into this dimension too much. It has a lot of tension for them. They get sick they're very delicate, by the way. They're very, very delicate in terms of dealing with us, because we've got, like, at an astral level, at a vibrational level, human beings are like typhoid Mary. We're infected with all kinds of negativities in our thinking and all kinds of stuff. And these more evolved species, they literally get sick around us. So that's why they're not here all the time. But the main question to ask ourselves is, why are they here so much? And by the way, it's not good that they're here. I mean, it would be good if we became aware of them naturally, and we evolved to the point where they manifest people that are coming here. Yeah, and no free species in this galaxy wants a probationary or custodial relationship with a malignant race like the human race. They don't. They don't. If you think there are brothers and they're this and that, no, they're not. They're not, right? It's just when we finally get this whole galactic thing going on, it's going to be a lot like a modern city in a Western country. You have Little Italy, you have Chinatown, you have Koreatown. Yeah, we're all going to know each other, but there's not going to be all this interacting. They're going to be over there doing their own thing, and we're going to have a little bit of contact with them. And my final thing, and I know I'm talking a lot, is realize when Viking says we're going to 5D, what all of these ecstatic narratives leave out is it's a euphemism for death. You're going to die, you're going to jump over the astral, and basically you might not have to reincarnate at 3D anymore. So a certain amount of souls are graduating, but talking about it like this reality is going to be terraformed, no. Mass death is coming, is what's coming. Mass death. Over.
Well, wouldn't that be part of the split though? Because if you're staying in 3D, you'll just see all these people dropping their husks. In one way you see it. So I don't. Well, also, I'm just trying to think because I'm coming from a 3D perspective that's moving to 4D and we're heading to 5D. So I'm using my brain from this perspective as well. So I'm finding it fascinating to see what actually does happen. But I do know it's new, and my perspective, and this is where I'll quickly end, is if there's disclosures like, awesome, we're not alone in this whole galaxy in the universe, that's great. Now, everyone piss off, we need to figure this out because as humanity needs to, instead of having a savior race come in and say, let's do this, let's do that. I mean, it's good to have an embassy and that we can talk to them, but we need to sort of all sit down and go, okay, well, what do we need? How do we interact? And you know what I mean? We need time to absorb because the mainstream, the general public, will probably freak out for however many weeks because everything's a lie and all this type of thing. And then if all the extraterrestrials have an agenda, to be fair, humanity needs an agenda. Over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
So, that's what I see going on. But I mean, the big thing is that there's been negative beings, races of negative beings with us for the last cycle of recorded history. 12,000, 13,000 years. And they're sort of being squeezed out now. And a lot of the development that's come about since the 1800s onward, well, really through the formation of the university system and getting all of this concentrated effort, that really hasn't been a human endeavor. It's been these other races. Dare I say it, after what I learned writing Stardust Ranch, The Incredible True Story, most of what Hijacker is saying is actually true, except the flat Earth. That's just completely friggin' wacky. But something was put down here with us. They were put down here, and they're kind of trapped here with us. It's not like they can come and go. And that situation's being dealt with. And so if you want to see the great and benevolent compassion of so-called benign extraterrestrials, realize they let us stew with these bastards for 12,000 years, right?
Yeah.
So they'll just have to go through all of these miserable incarnations of war and slavery and all of this nonsense, and we'll deal with this in 2020 and in 13,000 years. I mean, they're not. They don't respond to situations the way we do. They don't have the normal they don't have the human sense of emergency that we have. It's because our lives are so short, right? To them,
And
everything is just nothing.
well, if they're in the astral, there's a different perspective of time. Humanity is different because we have our emotions, where we can either let them control us or we can control the emotions, which the beings that were down here with us have learned to feed off us. In a way, you've also got multiple, because I'm not going to try and pick one narrative, because there's multiple narratives which are on a base level roughly the same, where like quarantine, and so humanity unfortunately is the jail. We're in a jail cell with a criminal, and for whatever reason we're finally breaking out, and so yeah, it's or the our jail cell occupant is controlling the jail cell or something. We're going to be freed basically, and it's eventually, but it really doesn't matter exactly what the finite is of if they're in jail as well, or they're basically where they're bitch, so they can feel like God in a small cell, and so it's interesting to see. Viking, anything to add or share?
Actually, the timeline's about 26,000 years if you want to include Lemuria and Atlantis. Going into the time of Enoch, going into the Grecian and Egyptian, those are pretty old, But as far as I will agree the benevolent forces of the universe, the galactics, are not here to save us. They're here to be of service as far as a guide, and to support those who are open and willing to hear and see and start to divine their own essence. So it's basically breaking away from this matrix, this holographic cloud, organic AI. As far as the sociopaths, the psychopathic tendency, it had to be sanctioned in this duality. It had to be in order to get the swing of the pendulum, because in the toxicity of the sociopathic, psychopathic tendencies, we have developed an antigen, which is what they're after. They're after the antigen of compassion and forgiveness, and this is the evolution of humanity. It's through disclosure. We have to understand that everybody on this planet is suffering. Everybody has a cocktail of PTSD from their karmic encumbrances. Everybody is in the same boat here. And who are we to judge? Who are we really to judge? Because they're just getting what they were told and how they were programmed, and their perversions are from their the denials of their own emotional expression. It's all in divine order. Everything I see, I'm a little more optimistic. I see it being in divine order, and it was a test for us to come through this gauntlet, this karmic gauntlet, and to be able to divine ourselves, knowing that, having undergone pain and suffering, we now can develop strength and courage. And from that, we gain an understanding. We back away now into our own self-creation. Your God spark is your solar plexus. This is where you have your divinity. But this is what they did. They gated it. They subjugated it into the 3 base strands of DNA, but by putting a gate there called trauma. And through the trauma, they controlled us and subjugated us into these pathological belief structures of dogmatic religions and medieval dynasties and matriarchs and patriarchs, and now it's the corporate world. These have all been there to keep us in this slipstream of rhetoric, and it's like going beyond merry-go-round, going nowhere fast. You go round and round, nowhere fast. It's the wash, rinse, spin cycle of life. We had to go through this. We had to. This was our mission. We signed a contract to come here to be stripped down. All of our higher angelic realm had to be stripped away because they hit an impasse. They hit an impasse in the galactic world where they couldn't evolve any further because they were missing our emotional creativity, our emotional lust, our emotional passion had to be redefined. And this is why we came here. And we had to experience this in order to come to this realization. and we're not going into. You understand? 4D is the transit, it's the chrysalis. Into 5D. What's 5D? 5D is just a marker. You know, you made it through. You know, here's your badge, your glass of water at the end of the marathon. You basically, at that point, depending on where you were in your galactic standing, if you're 70 or 90, that you immediately will be transported to your soul grouping based on your genetic blueprinting. 5D is just a way station, making it through this horrific incarnation on this planet. But we will come through it. As far as dying, there won't be any mass death. There will be death and there will be birth, but there's not going to be any more incarnation. If you died at this point, you will not be reborn on this planet. All the children are being born on this planet are rainbow, indigo children that are galactics that are going to here to help to rebuild and restabilize and recreate and redivine this planet. If you can make it another 7-8 years, you will find immortality. You will be able to gain your immortal soul. You will not die. But if you're stuck in the 3D and stuck in this 3D dimension, stuck in this 3D holographic reality, you will die, and you'll probably be transported to a 3D planet to undergo the merry-go-round all over again until you learn your lesson. So this is my perspective. It's a little more positive than Bruce's, but I don't believe there'll be a mass death. I think there's going to be a mass awakening.
Yeah, I just remembered a joke that I created 6 years ago where it's like the first thing that happens when you get to 5D is someone hands you a 6D bus pass. And you spend about a week going, what the hell is this for? Like, what's going on? But you're out of sight of time, so it depends on you. But yeah. It's interesting as the frequency change and everything, like the negative side and the as I said, like even the fear of death. Like I'm sure if someone comes in with a knife and puts it to my throat and starts pushing it in, I may react. I may have an emotion, but it's just the frequency I'm going into is like I'm doing the dishes and I'm cleaning out all the gunk and everything else like that. And it's interesting enough as well with the way that we speak. It kind of sounds like we're becoming perfect. What I'm finding is that you do all this work and you get to a certain point, then the universe kicks you in the nuts. Just to, all right, you've done this far, try this. And you slowly move forward and you inch forward, or you're spiraling upward, and you're still learning, and but there's still this growing awesome love, whatever term you want, the spark of life, the divine, your true essence, your raw consciousness, whatever language you want to use or whatever label you want to use. You're becoming more you.
You know, if you're not being challenged, and you're not doing your work, because this is all this adversity. You step over the threshold of your door in the morning into the real world, so-called, the real world. If you're not being challenged and you're not doing your work, because the scenarios that you are facing that day are exactly congruent to the lessons that you need to learn. And if you're getting into a situation where you're reacting, then you got to step back and go, why am I reacting? What part of me is reacting? What part of my genetics, what virus is in my DNA that's causing this reaction? And where has this trauma been embedded? Because each day you have an opportunity to resolve yourself. And if you're reacting, well, then you might as well just throw it in the hat. But if you use it as an opportunity to understand that there's a reason why the reaction is still there. You're still holding on to something that's no longer serving you. You're still holding on to something that's no longer working. And this is an opportunity. Every time is an opportunity to move forward. As you're pointing out, Monty, it's like climbing a ladder. Each rung will get you a greater depth of perception, but it's also going to show you the encumbrances that are sabotaging you from these edicts of programming that we're still facing. So it's a process of evolution. We're evolving, and you have to do the work. It's a sojourn. It's a sojourn.
Yeah, I'll not probably be gladly do it again. I'll be glad when I graduate or achieve or finish the goal or finish the mission. However, if I had to do it again, I would put more rest days in. I'm just like, gee, especially in this compression, and I'm hoping or believing or creating that once we get past the membrane or the bubble or whatever it is, where I won't know everything the Prime Creator does. However, once we get past this major shift of like the 7 years of tribulation, like Sean David Morton, when he was able to communicate with the outside world, he put forward the idea that the mind said we're in a 13-year or a 14-year Night of the Jaguar. And since 2019, December 21st, that's the halfway point. The next 7 years will only get better because we're at the darkest and we're coming out of it. And it'd be interesting to see how that plays out, because from a 3D perspective, and I think this is where Team Dark uses an element of their control, because the statement the world is going to end and it will be terrifying and apocalyptic, that is true from a certain point of view, to quote Obi-Wan Kenobi again, because their world is falling apart. They're losing control. They won't exist. They will never be the same. That is the narrative they're trying to push, because for them, that is what is happening.
It's true for them.
Yes, because we're remembering who we are, and we've got a DNA passport because we're like a mongrel, as you say in Australia, and we harnessed our emotions, and we've done all our missions, and we'll go be ambassadors to the rest of creation. And I think there's an element, not jealousy, but like the extraterrestrials, like the good ones are like, well done. I'm not going down to help you. It's filthy, but well done. Keep going. And the dark ones are like, they're jealous and they hate us because what we are, and they suppress our power because we're more powerful than them.
So what they're wanting, see, most of the galactics out there, like the Spocks and the Romulans, the Vulcans and they don't have the lust for life. They're lacking the lust. That's their impasse. That's the impasse that they hit. We are literally, through the codexes of our creative will and our passion, changing the fabric of the universe. We are literally creating DNA that they're going to be creating planets and universes with. We are seeding the galactic universe with our expressions of life. This is how powerful it is, man. This is absolutely, this is off the chart. How powerful this grand experiment has been. Is that we're actually on course. We're on action. As far as the Night of the Jaguar, as I said 2 weeks ago, that Sunday, it tipped into the light. For the first time, it tipped into the light. We are now more in the light than we are in the dark, and it's only downhill from here.
Cool. Bruce, I've got a question for you. Now, it's not really spoilers for the book, but from the experiences at the ranch, I'll give you 3 scenarios, and most likely you'll give me a 4th one, which makes more sense. Is it fully positive experiences? It's fully negative experiences, or is a war going on, or is it something else? Because I don't think you'll be spoiling the book, because it'll be fascinating to see how it is all unfold. So, what is how would you share the experience of living at that ranch?
It's both. There's extraordinary experiences and there's terrifying experiences. And there was kind of the energy sort of changed around 2011, middle of 2011, based on a certain event that happened. And there's, I guess, a lot more what you would call benign ETs showing up now. The negatives are still there. It's like an embassy of sorts. So The particular portal on John's land is extremely useful because it's not just a portal that goes to different time, space, locations. It goes to different time locations. So you can go into the past or into the future if you know how to use the portal.
Ooh, no, so it's multi-purpose type thing. So it's interesting that so it's not really what's the word I'm looking for? I'm thinking there isn't warfare over it. Obviously, there's
let me go a little bit deeper into this. Portals are a big part of what has been the control structure on this planet. So you've got the ley lines, the geomancy, all of the dark arts that the Illuminati have been practicing. And portals are a part of it, okay? When you start to digest what the portals represent, you realize Charles Darwin is a joke. It's a joke. The giants didn't evolve and then go away. I mean, everything that's on this planet here like enter stage left. And that includes us, the human race. We were brought here through the portals. There's no monkey evolving to what we are now. That's clean. There may have been a hominid here that was tinkered with genetically, but most of the human beings here have been brought here through portals. And the natives remember all this. It's in all the native stories. We cover this in the book, The Arizona Tribes. I mean, the Hopi literally talk about walking through a tunnel of light to get to planet Earth because their last home was destroyed.
It's interesting because the Aboriginals, and I haven't clarified it, but my understanding is the Aboriginals of Australia, they believe through the Dreamtime, they entered through the South Pole and they went to Australia for, which I think was a spiritual school. And then there's the theory of instead of out of Africa, there was before that was out of Australia. However, I wouldn't say
a lot.
Go ahead, sorry.
A lot of the galactic travel is done in the astral, and then your astral is put into the buffer around the planet you're going to continue your lessons on. So you're transported in the astral. Let's say you're living on a planet somewhere 100 million, 1,000 light years away, and the sun in that solar system goes out. There is a kind of order to this universe where, just like the Red Cross will show up for an emergency on Earth, certain agencies and races will show up and they'll aid that race, right? And you'll be brought to a planet that's hospitable for you, but you're generally brought in the astral, and then you wait, and then you incarnate onto the planet.
Now, with that, it's interesting that because we're stuck in a loop, it's put forward that the Archons have trapped people. So at least 26,000 years. Andrew Bartas has said it could be up to 50 million years because Earth is such a prized possession where it's a university or a soul grouping. And so originally we could have been brought here through the tunnel of light. And yet we're stuck in this system, and we're constantly being reincarnated instead of just carnated or incarnated. And I remember someone saying that even the negative entities on the planet just want this to end because it's been whatever's been happening to the Earth. It's been stuck in a loop for so long. Even Team Dark, parts of Team Dark are over it, and they want to move on and do something else because they're tired. It's fat, and this is kind of why I think the higher ups of Team Dark have gone, we've lost. We need to move forward. Creation can't sustain this anymore. And then you've got the lower level ones, the middle management of like, all right, we're clearing out our desk, let's move on. Harry, I'll see you at the bar. And then we're seeing what's happening with the 3D, the Clintons and the Obamas and all the Soros and all that level. They're probably ignored the orders to surrender, and they're holding on because they think they're the bee's knees. And we're just seeing how they're slowly being withered away in the energetics, and they're trying to do all this stuff, but it's not going to work. There's too much energy, and as we've said before, Bruce, it in the higher frequencies, it's already being done, and we're just seeing it filtering down to this level.
Well, yeah. So what's happening here? I got confirmation last week that Bill Gates, Romney, Cheney, and Laura Bush have been removed from the playing field. And see, each one of these people have an agenda, and when their agenda gets too dark and basically plays out, they're removed. The reason why, you have Strzok and Comey and the Clintons, that their agenda has to play out. Even if they die, they're kept in holographic form until their agenda plays out in such that they're causing an awakening, right? They're causing an awakening. They're causing a surge of humanity to back up and see their demise. And then once they've done their job, they're taken out. They may even be kept in holographic form until that's done. Each one has a purpose, and it's causing us to even do even greater and further work. It's like, let them do their worst, because it'll force us to do even better. And we have to go through it. It's in divine order. It's in divine timing. All of this sociopathic networking is giving us great opportunity to swing the pendulum, to even find a greater sanction of compassion and forgiveness in our own essence by backing away and not participating in their silly games.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. Everything is in divine order. A lot of our spiritual understanding has been infantilized in the last few thousand years, mainly due to the blood-soaked Abrahamic religions. And, when you say, yeah, God loves us, but what does God love? God doesn't necessarily love the human being. God loves the soul. The soul's like 5 bodies back. There's the physical, the astral, the causal, the mental, and then the soul. Why do I have to go through all this suffering? Because these bodies around us are the instrument that creation has chosen to refine us to whatever souls, pure perception, what God wants us to be. So when you say that God's us, yeah, he does, but not as persons. God is not politically correct.
And thank God for that. And I don't say that often.
Yeah. Yeah, good one. That's a good one.
What's being re-engineered is our DNA. Our DNA, as we start to reactivate past the 3, we're subjugated in the base 3 and divided and conquered into our traumas and our the dark side of the pendulum, the pain and suffering, subjugation, despair. So what's happening here is, as we start to do the 180. Again, giving yourself permission, strength, and courage. You get into a fetal position. You go catatonic. It's kind of like the Matrix. When Neo slipped out, it really is that kind of a cathartic state. Because you don't know which way is up and what's true, but you come to a point where you start to find your self-reflection away from the Matrix. Then you start to get what's known as codexes. These codes that come down as epiphanies, and you get these aspirations and this information that is helping you in your sojourn be able to divine your true essence in your passion. Then these codes turn into codexes, and these codexes then they actually burn the virus out, and you replace with a codex. And our DNA is upgrading. We're activating and upgrading our DNA every day, especially with these gamma waves coming in. They're giving us opportunities. So every time you get like chills, when you get like an aspiration or an epiphany, you're getting a code, and by engaging it in your life, it creates a codex. It creates an understanding. It's not knowledge. It's not knowing. It's you just get it. You just get what's going on. It's instantaneous. It's a non-time. Then your DNA slowly starts to activate. We're activating all 12 strands of our DNA, which is tandem to 12 strands of our chakras. And then And then eventually, when you hit the 12th, the upper four become your auric. They ripple out, 9, 10, 11, 12, ripple out of your being, and the 1 through 4 and 5 through 8 compress into a Merkaba, and that is your God spark. When that happens, then you are literally in a transcended self-mastery state of being.
Cool, and then I'll identify as a roundabout, because I'll turn myself into a roundabout.
Exactly.
Yeah. see, comedy is going to be so much more fun back there when we get to that point, because comedy usually is attacking someone or putting someone down, or it's what I find fascinating with the channeled or higher speech, higher level frequency. They're still funny, however, it's positive comedy, and it's fascinating. One that just came to mind is when Daryl Anker was channeling Bashar, not the guy from Syria. He was talking. He has like a question and answer period, and a woman went up. It's like, I work at SETI, which is the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and Bashar straight off the bat just goes, "You found me." Like, why are you spending all this money when I'm right here?
There's also what I usually will start off with if I'm talking to a new person is I say, "You want to go see a galactic? You want to see a galactic? Go look in the mirror."
Well, there is that too. Yes, I'm finding it interesting that I've lost one of my teeth because I smoked way too much. Apparently, and I miss smoking. See that even when I'm going to get to a point where I'm in a different frequency and smoking won't be detrimental to my health because I miss bongs. Anyway, I've lost one of my front teeth because of the gum disease, and I would say the last 6 to 12 months I've felt like it feels like the cells are all having meetings of like, I think we're going to grow back. Do you think we should grow back? Well, because my understanding is the cell in the DNA would have the blueprint to grow back. We've seen lizards grow back tails and everything else like that. Humans should be able to do that. I've grown back some bone, but not enough. But that's one of my goals, is to go back to a 25-year-old body, because that's sort of the peak level of fitness.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to 442. Cryon speaks of it being your innate. You speak to your innate, and you can, by speaking to your innate blueprint, you can, he says, grow back body parts, and you can grow back your teeth. They're actually doing that on Mars. When someone loses a limb, they put them in a chamber, a regeneration chamber, and they can regenerate their arm. Galactics, when they lose their arm, like if they're screwing around with blades and swords, and they'll do fights a lot of times. It's kind of sparring, and they'll cut off an arm. They can grow it instantaneously. That they can grow it back. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's like when you get a couple of tankards down you go sparring. You cut off limbs. This is part of it. But they grow back immediately.
Deadpool, if anyone needs reference from the comic book world, Deadpool, where in the second movie he gets cut in half and he grows back from the waist down. There's some interesting jokes about that, but at some point he looks like he's a 3-year-old legs, with a body of a 38-year-old on the top, and science has sort of proven like there's the information in one cell with the DNA. It's just unlocking that and using the energy to grow back. And so I would love to have all my teeth back, and that's when I just find it interesting that I feel that it's not like a phantom limb or anything else like that. It's not that I'm missing the tooth. I feel about where the tooth was in the bone, and it wants to grow out. And I've had Melissa look at it as well, and she said, "Yeah, something's going on there." And it's I think for me, maybe that's my permission slip of like, no, you're becoming awesome again, is when my tooth starts growing back. Also, the last 3 years, I gained a lot of weight, and I'm wondering if the weight gain, because I'm losing weight over the last 3 years, if that's part of what we're going through, that I can burn off the energy to move forward. Bruce, you wanted to share, I think.
Yeah, who's Melissa?
A friend of mine, Melissa, I did a show with her, 2-3 years ago, Viking. Melissa Hocking Hughes. She works in the quantum biogenics institute, and she is a healer using the quantum field. And Viking came on a couple of shows, and they hit it off. So eventually, hopefully she can do one of these roundtables, because she's getting back in the swing of things, and then you'll be able to meet her and have a chat.
Okay, all right. I thought maybe she was your girlfriend.
Well, no, she's a friend who's a girl.
Okay, all right.
We're actually soul brother and maybe stepsister or something, but yeah, there's a connection for whatever reason, and we're here for the mission.
So I have a suggestion on your YouTube. So Chris has been posting all of the Galactics councils on his station, and they get up to about 300 and they stop because of his listening audience. You know, he's got it's been kind of the same for the past 6 months. This latest one, and it just says Galactic, and it counts like you have Planet Collingwood, Open Round Table. I had him put in, instead of putting in just the Galactic Interstellar, I had him put in a buzzword. So the last time was the Arcturian speaking about, whatever we talked about, or the fairies, they're talking about Tantra. My God, in 3 days, it completely tipped into, I've gotten more hits on that last one than I did any other council, because the buzzword is what's bringing it in. So my suggestion, when you post this, post the Schumann Resonance Explained and the ET World, Uncovered. Just something like that, rather than Planet Collingwood. And you're going to find that the buzzword is going to give you more outreach, and more outreach will give you more subscriptions. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Because
so give it a try, dude. On this one here, just an example. The Schumann Resonance was the first hour, and the second hour was the ET, whatever. Just figure it out. Just that catchwords, nothing to do with planet. You should have on your picture, Open Round Table, but don't put that in your thing. Put down what we talked about, and you're going to find your listenership will exponentially grow over the next 2 months.
Yeah, I actually put into the paragraph at the bottom. I started putting in guests, but that makes sense. And this is a quote you'll hear from YouTubers a lot. That will work the algorithm, because at YouTube the algorithm is God, and so that makes sense. It's making sure
just starting off with Schumann Resonance, you'd be amazed. You're going to get 1,000 hits.
That would be good.
I'm just saying, do Schumann Resonance Explained. That's all I have to put, and you'll be. Yep. I mean, you're going to just be blown away on how fast you're going to grow your channel.
Also, for the second hour, I'll just put ET Report, because that's kind of what we did. And also, if you're listening to this right now, because of what we've put into the title of the video, hello, it worked. I'm going a bit meta.
Or a galactic report or cosmic report, just something ET galactic, you're right. It'll definitely stimulate. I mean, you're gonna be blown away how quickly it's gonna just take off.
Well, yeah, because I've got 11 subscribers at the moment. I had 2 or 3 only 7 weeks ago. So I want
to see 1,000. I want to see 1,000 in 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, I'd like 1,000 subs. That means I can monetize and I can, eat. And then I need 1,000 hours. So yeah, well, I'll report back next week, which actually is a good time because we've got 2 minutes to go of the show. So big thank you to the Viking as well as the Bruce MacDonald. I'm the Monty Dean, and you're listening to I'm just being silly, of course, but in a good way. See, there's positive comedy. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, revolution.radio. Thank you all the chatters in the chat room on the website. Thank you for everyone listening. If you enjoyed the last 2 hours, please donate what you can at the station. We are 100% listener supported. Bruce, any final comments or thoughts before we go?
Yeah, if you find, Vikings language difficult to understand, he's basically a moment and have faith, right? This isn't an intelligence quotient test. You don't have to get all these terms and speak this language. It's another way of saying the same thing over and over again. Just try to get very comfortable in yourself, and inside you is everything you need to get through the next decade and the next 2 decades and everything. It's all inside you. Just spend a little bit more time with yourself. Keep a journal beside your bed. Write down your dreams. Become more internally aware. And like Viking says, just be passionate in your life and live in the moment.
Yeah, don't worry about language. Find your language of what is, everything's got a certain premise, and it will unfold in front of you if you trust yourself. Viking, final thoughts?
Yeah, when I do unpack this information, I kind of do it on metaphysics. I try to just get concepts and analogies that the audience can understand, and yeah. Bruce is right. It's not so much trying to interpret my words, but just get the frequency and vibration that I'm trying to share, because it is a frequency and vibration that we're all atoning ourselves to.
Yep. Creation is a kaleidoscope, and we're all part of it. And so we all are the center of our own universes. And due to the joy of creation, we can interact and share, which is great. You have been listening to Planet Collingwood. We'll be back in 6 days and 22 hours. Remember, you're awesome, and mine's a pint. We'll see you soon. Good night.
Thanks, Monty.